My journey to becoming the New Zealand Rose first began with a life-changing decision to pack up my life as I knew it in London and make the life-altering move to New Plymouth, Taranaki 2.5 years ago. At this time, I faced with doubt and fear of the unknown, of the loneliness that might await me, having committed to moving permanently to a country that held no nostalgic memories of home, no childhood friends and no family. I was encouraged to think carefully about my decision and often encouraged to take the path of least resistance and uncertainty by staying or returning back to Ireland. But for those of you who know me well, listening to reason or sense has never been my strong suit. And so I took the road less travelled by and crossed the world in search of new adventures. I was never to know that that decision was going to alter my life in such an amazing way and in a twist of fate, bring me back home. When thinking about this final speech, I kept going back to what the Rose of Tralee had meant to me when I first entered, what I had expected to happen, and if it had met my expectations. I entered in an attempt to merge my two worlds together, my Irish past and my future in New Zealand. This unique festival gave me the opportunity to learn about my new home in the context of my old. My two worlds came to a literal head on the steps of the Glen Royal Hotel on the first day of the Rose of Tralee, when not only was I unbelievably nervous to meet 63 other roses, but my parents and Shane's parents were meeting for the first time, and I honestly don't know what I was more nervous about. The festival has brought both our families together, and to see both families waving the New Zealand flag and cheering me on in the crowd together at the parade is honestly one of the most proudest moments of my life. I also entered the Rose of Tralee to make those special friendships I grew up hearing the Roses on TV talk about. They spoke of an indescribable bond between sisters that develops as fast as lighting a match, but burns on for years, fueled by the memories of such an intense and dreamlike experience that is the Rose of Tralee Festival. This was my expectation coming into the national selection last year, and I am truly grateful to say the stories were not false, but if possible, underplayed. I especially want to say a huge thank you to you, Liv Hughes, the Canterbury Rose and my best friend in the national selection. We were roommates and thick as thieves from the get-go, and my best friend throughout the whole event, and having you here tonight is so special. Not my roommate, but my mentor, Hannah Grayley, last year's New Zealand Rose, is also here and is a testimony to the bond that exists in the Rose of Tralee family. I had big shoes to fill, but I also had a great example to lead by. In Tralee, I was lucky enough to call this year's Rose of Tralee, Jennifer Byrne, my roommate and lifeline throughout the 10-day festival. We laughed until we cried until we laughed, and everything else in between. Having seen her behind the face of the festival, I can honestly say no better woman could have been chosen for the high-pressure role. She is a true role model in every sense of the word, and I'm really, truly honoured to call her my friend. There was a very important point I wanted to make through my year as the New Zealand Rose, and that was that you don't stop being the New Zealand Rose after Tralee ends. The girl who wins the New Zealand Rose has the important role for a full year. For whoever wins, this year will be what you want to make out of it. And believe me, the more that you put into it, the more amazing memories that you'll make, and the more special people will walk into your life. Being the New Zealand Rose comes with the responsibility of being a role model for young girls, and I took this part of the job, so to speak, very, very seriously. The Roses have had a taste of this responsibility through having our amazing rosebuds who are here tonight, playing such a prominent role in this year's national final. This was to reflect the importance of being a positive influence and giving young girls a positive role model to look towards. The relationship I made with my rosebud Molly was one of the highlights of my time in Tralee. Having the platform of the Rose of Tralee allows you to do so much good, for you to influence people not only in New Zealand, but also around the world on social media. Personally, the highlight of my year as the New Zealand Rose has been the impact I've had on the type 1 diabetes community, both nationally and internationally. My personal legacy will be the organisation of the first ever type 1 team to run the Taranaki Around the Mountain Relay, 2 articles I got to write for the National Diabetes Magazine and one for the International Beyond Type 1 website, for whom I was named an international ambassador. Roses from around the world posted wearing blue to social media for my World Diabetes Day Blitz, and the response was absolutely overwhelming. I personally entered the Rose of Tralee to raise the profile of type 1 diabetes and living with an insulin pump. And my goal was to impact on one person's life. I made a pact with myself that if I did this, I would finish my year happy. This dream was realised on the day of the parade, when on the float, I was alerted by 2 other roses to a young girl in the crowd, whose mom was shouting out like absolutely crazy. When we stopped the float right in front of them, I noticed she was waving an insulin pump in the air. Her mother screamed at me that her name was Caitlin, that she had followed my journey all year, and that I was her hero. This young girl brought me to tears in that moment. I felt like I'd already run the Rose of Tralee. I have got asked whether the Rose of Tralee is still relevant, and whether we as roses actually have an impact. For me, having influenced one young girl to be more self-confident about wearing an insulin pump and managing her diabetes proved to me that we do make a difference, and every year 64 girls continue to make a positive difference in their communities, which definitely deserve celebration. I want to say a special thank you to all those who've helped me navigate this crazy year. Louise Bueller and Mary Elizabeth and the Hagginson family have been my rocks here in Taranaki, and as I always say, have been my biggest supporters, and I want to say a huge, huge thank you to you guys. Ashley from the New Zealand Centre was my constant support both in the lead up to Tralee and my fiery red-headed big sister throughout the Tralee madness. Thanks so much for backing me throughout the year and for all the hours of work that you do to keep this important festival alive in New Zealand. The Rose of Tralee in New Zealand is reliant on the generosity of our sponsors, both regionally and nationally, and without whom all of this here tonight couldn't be possible, so a huge, huge thank you to all of our sponsors. I need to thank both my parents, both for the support they gave me throughout the Rose of Tralee, and apologise for the heartache that comes from seeing your child move to the furthest point on the earth. Their support in my life adventures has allowed me to realise dreams not possible in Ireland, and grow into the person I am, full of rich experiences and newfound confidence. Lorraine and Gerald, I cannot thank you enough for all the support you've given me. You have embraced me as family and travelled the globe to support me in the festival, and I couldn't have asked for better New Zealand parents. Lastly, to Shane, my escort of the year and head cheerleader. I joke and have made you the butt of numerous jokes over the Rose of Tralee experience, and even embarrassed you on stage in front of 1.7 million people. But I couldn't have done this year without you, and a million thank yous will never be enough. Lastly, here in New Zealand, the Rose of Tralee for most is a connection to their ancestors past, a way to understand their identity and value their heritage. Ireland is a country of historical magic and folklore, myths and legends, and of warriors and Irish spirit. A country with a goodness that is present right to the core of its people, that greet every stranger with smiles and friendship. A country that appreciates spirituality and tradition, a true home. I truly believe it is such a special place to find roots. That we are all here in this room share a passion and familial connection to such a beloved nation is a wonderful thing. That we are here to celebrate the accomplished and eloquent women that hail from this great nation is something definitely worth celebrating. It takes a certain type of courage and self-belief to put yourself forward for a process such as this. Entering a beauty pageant in comparison, one relies on beauty on the outside, but this festival is about so much more than skin-deep beauty. It celebrates the beauty that is within all the girls who've entered this year. It celebrates their achievement, both academic and personal, their value in their communities, and their ability to light up the room with their infectious personalities. That's very nerve-wracking criteria, and I am so proud of these girls for having the self-awareness to recognise these qualities in themselves and be prepared to share their self-belief with the world. I would like you all to raise a glass to these wonderful women who have had the courage to stand here tonight and show all of those who doubt the relevance of the Rose of Tralee why this festival is not just necessary, but forward-thinking in its attitude to women and celebrating their worthy accomplishments. Thank you very much.